Now we move on to our first discussion today. After July 31st, 2025, Band A consumers benefiting from the services offered by Mainpower Electricity Distribution Limited, successor to EEDC, would begin to pay 160 naira per kilowatt hour. This is an approximately 44.83% drop from 290 naira per kilowatt hour being paid currently. Now, to elaborate on the tariff slash, we'll be joined by Mr. Chijioke Okonkwo, Chairman, Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission, as we commence this conversation around the tariff cut in the state by the regulator. Mr. Okonkwo, thank you so much for joining us remotely this morning. Thank you once again.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, Natalia. It's a pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to have you on as well. Now, I'd like to start from these two critical questions. How was EERC able to accomplish this in the state? Second question is, how is the regulator reacting to the seeming outcry by the GENCOs and the DISCOs saying that this move is going to trigger something that could even make the sector more indebted to suppliers? What is your wholesome appreciation of these two questions?
Well, let me start by saying that basically what we have done in Enugu today, what we're about to implement come August the 1st of 2025, is to ensure that our consumers, citizens of Enugu State, residents of Enugu State, pay the accurate price of electricity services. And in ensuring or determining that accurate price, what we have done was to work with the sub-disco, that's subsidiary of EEDC, that is now undertaking every electricity services as we know it today in Enugu State, to determine what their tariff chargeable in Enugu State would be. Let me clearly state this fact, that our jurisdiction starts and ends within Enugu State. So everything we have done, all the data that we received, that we analyzed, that we verified, validated, imputed into our model to determine what our tariff would be, is based on the data received in Enugu State and not any other part of the country. And yes, from the very beginning, we have always said it that we intend to pay the full cost of electricity services being delivered into our state, be it from the grid or from embedded generation. So as it stands today, what we have done was to take all the costs, all the data, the customer numbers, the regulated asset base, sorry, please forgive me on that, and their proposed OPEX and CAPEX, and imputed it into our model for the model to determine what the tariff would be. We didn't give them this tariff. Let us be clear on that. No, it is the model that analyzed their costs and came up with this tariff. And we know that if everything was okay, that's if we're running with the proposed cost of delivering electricity services at 112, which is the wholesale estimated, not estimated, but the wholesale electricity price to deliver electricity to the distribution companies,
right,
we would have imputed the 112 naira per kilowatt hour. But as it stands today, Mainpower receives electricity from EEDC, who receives its own electricity from the national grid at a cost that one can consider as subsidized for the distribution companies. Whether we like it or not, that is the situation we have on the ground today. And that cost, if you add the new power plant that has just come on board, which is Zungeru, is just over 45 naira per kilowatt hour. That doesn't mean that the full cost reflective tariff of generating electricity in Nigeria today is not unadjusted, is not 112. No, this is the cost that EEDC receives energy from the grid and transfers to Mainpower to distribute to its customers in Enugu State. So we thought about it. If this is the cost that Mainpower is going to receive electricity from the grid to deliver to its customers, why should they pay 112.5 when federal government has basically accommodated what is considered today as a tariff shortfall or subsidy, as we call it, or the expected minimum returns obligation of the distribution companies? Why should we pay the full cost of the energy and still have Mainpower benefit from that subsidy that has been offered by the federal government. That is double dipping from the way we say it. And we don't expect that our customers should not, as customers in Enugu State, should not benefit from that this particular opportunity that has been presented to them. So we said, oh, fine, that if that is the scenario, let us impute the 45 naira or just above 45 naira kilowatt hour tariff as it is today, which is what they are getting energy from the grid from, and run the numbers and see what it throws up for us. And it gave us an average cost of 94 naira per kilowatt hour. And by the time they structured the banding arrangement, we said, okay, fine, let us peg band A at 160. It should actually be significantly lower, but we pegged it at 160 and decided to, well, keep band B, C, D, and E at the levels where they are, so that customers in Enugu can benefit from this, how do I put it now, subsidy arrangement for the period in which it is in place, knowing fully well that if the federal government decides to remove the subsidy from electricity services today and stop subsidizing generation costs for every disco, that we will go back to paying the full cost of electricity services. And that will push our tariff back up to what it realistically should be. And one also, if Mainpower decides to sign a power purchase agreement today, be it with a grid-connected generation company or with an embedded generation company within our state, we would accommodate that cost in which it's going to sign its power purchase agreement into our tariff model and run the numbers. Whatever it gives us as tariff is what we'll present to the citizens of Enugu State, that this is what they now have to pay for electricity services. We know the sector is growing. We know that we'll go through this sitting process. We have analyzed this thing. We have got professionals to review the numbers that we use. We have discussed it with Mainpower. This entire journey did not add one single input from the regulator. Instead, all the numbers that we're using to compute our tariff determination or determine our tariff comes from the operator. So why others are disputing what we have done when we have accommodated all the costs, knowing fully well that the generation companies will be paid based on the rate that their energy is being delivered to our state and has been approved of based on MDET's invoicing to the DISCO. We know that we're paying 100% of the transmission costs. We know that Mainpower itself will recover 100% of its own cost. And we see it as cost-reflective tariff for Enugu State. Except the prices change, the tariff remains what it is today, what we have now presented to the general public. And that is what we implement.
For a long time, we've heard consumers complain, even form associations of electricity consumers to complain about the prices they have to pay for electricity. Now, consumers in Enugu State are extraordinarily happy with this new directive from EERC. But we're seeing the GENCOs and DISCOs threatening to protest it. Judging by the amount of research analysis that you've done, what do you really think is motivating the GENCOs and the DISCOs to react the way they are doing to Enugu regulator taking charge of this and issuing this order?
Frankly speaking, I can't tell. I mean, our model is out there in the public space and is available for anybody to review. The order we have put out is also out there in the public space. We in the commission are determined to be transparent about everything we do. And Mainpower that we are punching their numbers is also out there as a distribution company operating within our space. And it's their numbers that we actually crunch to determine what the tariff is. Sincerely speaking, let me put it this way. To a very large extent, I think we have played lip service to doing the right thing. I mean, we actually assume that if we said that we are going to be paying the actual price and everybody gets their money back, really, that we are ready for business and we're creating an enabling environment for their businesses to thrive, I think people should give our tariff an opportunity. If Mainpower doesn't pay its bills in full, then we can now have that conversation. Why didn't he pay his bills in full? If we're saying that the cost of delivering generation into our space from the grid has been put at 45 naira based on federal government's, one can call it the subsidy, I mean, in some cases, it's been referred to as the tariff shortfall. You know, that is, I mean, should we be removed from that? Wouldn't that be double dipping if we implement cost-reflective tariff of 112 when this subsidy is also in place? So Mainpower collects that money from the entire Enugu State citizens and pays what it's supposed to pay, taking into consideration this shortfall, this tariff shortfall that has been graciously given by the federal government to make life easier for citizens of Nigeria. Because it's not just Enugu State, it's for the entire citizens of Nigeria. I mean, the MITO order explicitly states, the MITO order from NEC, the national regulator, explicitly states how much each disco would benefit from that subsidy. So I don't think any disco is immune to it. And for those that say that it has been stopped a long time ago, we used the July NEC MITO order of 2025 to identify what the cost of generation would be, what the allowable cost of generation, what had to be remitted to embed. So, I mean, should we now say, okay, let us sweep this aside and use the actual cost, so that who really benefits from that money?
Right.
Because it means that Enugu State citizens would have been overbilled if the federal government has provided some level of subsidy for them based on the generation, subsidy in place, or tariff shortfall for generation. Why should they now pay for it? Wouldn't that be double dipping?
I mean,
and to whose advantage is it?
ERC is obviously leading the charge, as we're seeing other states that have started to take charge of their electricity market also begin to consider the decision that Enugu has taken for its electricity market. So we're seeing the ripple effect happening right now as we speak. But we also have something else that is also climbing the ladder, and that is a proposed Electricity Act Amendment Bill. With the amount of power vested in the state currently to control its market, how do you see this Electricity Act Amendment Bill affecting such actions as the one you've taken today?
Well, sincerely speaking, because we know that nobody has really come out to dispute that what we did was wrong. Everybody is raising issues with challenges that they may not meet the market obligation, that who will now be paying for this, that there was no subsidy in place in the first place, that there's no money about it. Let's be clear that the Gencos scream that they are being owed a 4 trillion naira debt is not something that started today. It's always been there, and it will continue as long as federal government continues to subsidize. We are for paying cost-reflective tariff. Let everybody pay the actual tariff so that this electricity business can actually be a business. No business is sustainable if it is backed by subsidy. It means that people will continue to depend on that subsidy, and therefore that business would inevitably in future die, because for how long would the subsidy itself now last? Now, when it comes to amending the bill and the Electricity Act as it is, we are not for it, really. We are not for it. Why? Is because the Electricity Act itself, 2023, has not even been fully implemented. I mean, we are changing the dynamics in Enugu. We are seeing success stories every day as we progress in our work to develop our state-specific electricity market. We have investors that are coming in and interested in developing their power in our state. And we are determined to ensure that they recover the full cost of delivering their services within our space, be it in the mini-grid space, off-grid space, conventional generation space, and connected to our distribution company, or having off-takers that are either industrial, commercial, or residential clusters. You know, so we want to make Enugu an electricity market environment where innovative solutions can be determined. And the citizens are supposed to be the beneficiaries of it, because the marketplace is where one can undertake some sort of trading. You don't just buy from one person. There is no monopoly in our space as it is. Mm-hmm. So we expect competition to drive our market. Now, amending the Electricity Act 2023, when it hasn't even been implemented, when we haven't even started that journey, when we are at the early stages of implementing our state-specific electricity market, speaks volumes to what was the rationale behind it in the first place. It doesn't speak to the progress that should have, or the consideration that should have been given to the 2023 Electricity Act to be implemented first, so that we can see where we are making mistakes, so that we can see where it doesn't speak to that synergy between the wholesale electricity market that is regulated by the national regulator, which is NEC, and the state-specific electricity market that is regulated by the state electricity regulatory commissions. We should be given a chance to create that market that is competitive, that is transparent, that is accountable, and where citizens are getting reliable service. So taking the act back again is to create confusion, because our laws, our state-specific laws, took their leading. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the term to use and define or interpret
go ahead.
it. Is leading from the Electricity Act as we know it today. So certain alterations or amendment that is being proposed by this new amendment bill would distort everything. Do we have to now take our laws back to our state assemblies to amend them as well to align with the State Electricity Act? No. I mean, we're in place. And the Electricity Act itself took its leading from the amendment that took place for the 1999 Constitution. So we don't understand why the National Assembly deems it necessary to amend the Electricity Act today. And basically, from what we read, we feel that that act should be put aside for now, suspended, so as to give us a chance to even try and develop our own state-specific electricity market. Let us be, we have always said it, use us as the guinea pig, use us as the pilot. Let us make those little mistakes. Let us have those conflicts with the national arrangement of wholesale electricity market, so that we can now come to an understanding as to what really needs to work, what really needs to change, or what can work in our space for everybody, so that we can now take that as an initiative and amend whatever needs to be amended. But give us a chance to do the work first.
Okay,
we haven't even started. Okay. And we are attracting investment. That is the amazing thing. We're attracting investment.
Why do you believe, can you hear me? Why do you believe so much in your institution and the way you want to propel it? As you stated, you want to make the mistakes, then, correct them, and for them to see that literally this can actually work. What gives you that confidence?
What gives me that confidence is in the structures, the institutional administrative structures that has been put in place. Let me put it this way. The government of Enugu State is thinking. It's a thinking government. It's not a government that is irrational or takes decisions out of the blues. No, it went through the process of putting in place a policy. Putting in place a policy for the electricity sector in Enugu State is not just a walk in the park that you come and write this for me. No. They went out into the streets, determined where our potential load clusters are, what might possibly take that energy, what our demand is, and how much of that demand is met by the current operators. How much of our people are suffering that are underserved, where we need electricity services, what our estimated projections will be over the next 5 years, and put in place a policy which initiated the process of putting in place our electricity law. Don't forget that we're the first to take this initiative. And not just that, I trust the team of commissioners that make up the Electricity Regulatory Commission. That's the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission. My commissioners are experienced not just in regulation, but in generation and distribution. I mean, we have been on your program several times and you have met a couple of my colleagues already. And we put heads together. We tear every issue to pieces. We think, we go through that process of regulation, ensuring that we have dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's. But we're not saying that we're perfect. Instead, we are taking baby steps, because this has never been done anywhere in West Africa before now. I like to say that it hasn't even been done anywhere in Africa. So any little mistake we make, the Enugu State citizens will bear the brunt. And we don't want that to happen. So when we say that we're taking baby steps, that we want to make very little mistakes, it's mistakes that can easily be corrected. Mm-hmm. And we want people to challenge us. We want critics to criticize everything we're doing. We're not running away from criticism. Instead, put the argument on the table and let us take it into consideration when we are still at the preparatory stages. And our methodology, our tariff methodology and regulations were put through public consultation. We had investors, players, operators, and service providers, both in the country and outside the country, participate in that process and tell us, okay, fine, adjust this, amend this. We have lawyers, engineers, professionals in other fields, and accountants, investment bankers, go through our regulations before we finalized it. And we deem it fit and proper for implementation in Enugu State.
Okay, so
everything is for Enugu State, not outside Enugu State.
That established, you've made it very clear the jurisdiction of this order. Now, we're seeing other bans, Ban B, Ban C, Ban D, Ban E, remaining frozen. Now, some people might find it difficult to understand what you mean by frozen. Why is the tariff cut not also trickling down to other banned, shall we say, consumers?
So let's face facts. The actual cost of electricity generation and delivery from the wholesale electricity market, which is the national grid, is currently put at approximately 112. When we include all the other costs of transmission and distribution to it and accommodate a certain level of losses and the debt that we have also accommodated to be repaid both to CBN and investors and other sector players, and at least a reasonable profit for Mainpower to continue to grow its business. We know that the tariff itself should probably really come up, from what we currently have. What we have right now, based on this generation cost subsidy, is 94 naira as an average tariff. But by the time we crunch the actual numbers, it should definitely come up. It should be higher, way much higher, and should meet what other potential investors that are actually having conversations with us right now to develop their projects in Enugu are actually about to charge. So we know that once it comes up, and that is the caveat we are giving Enugu State, the residents and customers or citizens and consumers, that the moment Mainpower signs a power purchase agreement with a developer for embedded generation in our state to deliver power to it for onwards delivery to the customers, we will accommodate the full cost of that energy, be it from the grid or from embedded or distributed generation. And once that happens, it means that citizens or residents in our state will start paying the actual price at every stage. It is the actual price of delivering the services to them. So there's no talk about subsidy. This subsidy that we are actually making reference to right now is one that was initiated at the federal level. Initiated and implemented at the federal level. We're benefiting from it here, but we're not even accommodating any form of tariff in our model. Any form of subsidy in our model.
And that's something that the regulator wants to change. Now, I want to come to this. When eventually the subsidy, or if it is removed in the long run, definitely there's going to be some kind of shock for the Band A consumers. How would the regulator manage that shock when it eventually comes upon us?
So we did something strategic. We pegged the Band A at 160. It could have been lower, but we pegged it at 160 for a reason, because it's not as low as it should be at an average tariff cost of 94. Instead, we kept it at 160 so that while they're over-recovering at this stage, everybody enjoys the lower tariff. However, whenever the subsidy from generation is removed and everybody starts paying the full cost of delivering electricity to their space, and we are part of it, the shock of that immediate spike would be accommodated or better managed by us clawing back this excess over recovery that our Mainpower would be recovering now based on the tariff that we have actually presented or given to it. And we will gradually be increasing it and clawing back the excess that they are going to be benefiting from August the 1st. Except that the subsidy is removed before August the 1st. Then we would automatically recalibrate and let people know that this is what is going to happen, and they start paying the actual cost from day one. But if for one day they benefit from this subsidy, we will claw it back the moment the tariff changes to accommodate or to mitigate that shock, that spike of taking it back up from probably 160 to above 200. And when you said, how does it affect every other customer? I mean, every other customer is paying between just under 40 to 60 naira, and under 70, between 40 to 70 naira as we speak.
Right.
Their own tariff would also go up. So it's not like they're immune to it. Everybody's focused on the band A because band A has always been paying cost-reflective tariff and carrying the burden of those that are paying way less electricity services.
All right. Now, while we great, while we try to wrap this up, following the clarity that you've given on the program today, what message do you have for the consumers in Enugu State, for the discos and for the gencos? What would be your final message to these three groups of individuals?
To the gencos, let me start with the consumers. You have a responsibility to pay your bill. We expect that Mainpower would be a profitable business moving forward. We are here on ground to watch out for your own interest, and we're determined to make sure that you get value for money. But we will not accommodate citizens or customers or consumers that do not pay their bills. We will not accommodate those that bypass their meters for one reason or the other, or vandalize electrical equipment. Once that happens, every other person suffers. And I almost want to say that you should, I'm saying that you should trust your government and the people your government have put in place to manage this particular sector, because we are determined to do the right thing and your interest is at heart. So enjoy this while it lasts, and prepare for us all to move to that promised land where, if we imbibe competition in our own state electricity market and have our own state generating companies with competition leading the way, the tariff may even stay as is, or probably even come further down or go up. Let's not deny the fact that there's every possibility that it also go up.
Right.
And to what the second set of people?
The gencos, and then the discos.
To the generating companies. I mean, I actually said it at the NACOP, that's the NACOP conference in Maiduguri that I attended. I feel for them that they are indebted to the tune of over 4 trillion, and I know that federal government has actually been working on this for quite a number of years now to offset that debt. However, I mean, it's what we have inherited, and we can't run away from it. And yes, that structure has to be put in place. All of us coming together to work together would actually create that smooth path to transitioning to cost-reflective tariff, so that gencos can receive the full cost of their generating electricity, while discos are paying the full amount and relieving government from having to subsidize any form of electricity. This is a business, so let's treat it like a business. It means that everybody has to be up and doing across board, all the stakeholders, to make sure that our services, reliable service, is being delivered. The revenue, the commensurate revenue to pay for that service, is also going back to those that are providing the services.
Right. And what about the discos?
And to the discos, for us in Enugu, we have started our own journey. We need our discos to stand strong, independent, and determined and committed to run this business as a business. We're not saying give us subsidy. We're not even begging. We're not begging to reduce, or we're actually even asking for improvement in electricity services. We are committed to working with the discos to make this business work for them, because they're the ones that will reap the profit. They're not giving us any money. They're providing a service to the benefit of our citizens, and that is our joy. Once their customers are happy and they are paying customers, they are also supposed to be happy. It's a win-win situation for everybody. So we're telling them to give us a chance with this tariff and let us run this race together. Once their situation changes and they sign power purchase agreement and presents it to us as a commission, we would immediately adjust their tariff to accommodate the cost that they will continue to offtake power from either embedded generation or grid connected generation. But we would rather prefer embedded generation so that we can grow our market.
All right. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us on the show this morning and providing this clarity that you have this morning. Thank you once again for your time, Mr. Okonkwo. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Natalia. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Now, after this quick break, we bring you up to speed with developments with the highly anticipated AFIA TV documentary, 318 Hectares. We're joined by executive producer, 318 Hectares, Nnamdi Obanya, in just moments. Do stay tuned.